Welcome to English Language Unit Muet Clinic Session 2021-2022. I am Dr. Nancy, the presenter for this segment, and the moderators are Miss Poon Fong Ha and Miss Siti Rohaiza. In this video, I will be taking you through Muet 804 Task 2, which is Argumentative Essay Writing. Should you have questions, you can post them in the chat box and the moderators will answer your questions. To start off, let us take a look at what argumentative essay is about. Argumentative essay involves presenting convincing arguments to persuade the reader or the readers to agree with the writer's viewpoints. It also requires the writer to make a clear stand that is either to agree, to disagree, or he or she may decide to take a neutral stand. The writer then reinforces the stand taken with reasons, justifications, and examples. To this end, formal and persuasive language should be used. Argumentative essay is usually written in the present tense when presenting arguments. However, the past tense and other tenses may also be used when presenting examples. This is a sample argumentative essay for Muet. The question consists of 3 segments. The first segment is the context where a situation is presented. The second segment comprises the issue or the topic to be discussed. The third segment indicates the type of essay you have to write. In this sample question, you are required to express your opinion on the given statement and write an essay of at least 250 words. So when you are asked to express your opinion on a certain issue, you know that this is an argumentative essay. Other indicators are: what is your viewpoints? Do you agree with the statement given? Allow me to share with you the scoring for argumentative essay. As you can see, marks are given for task fulfillment as well as for language and organization. For task fulfillment, it involves 2 components, that is, the elaboration, the explanation, and the examples given in the arguments, as well as the maturity of the discussion. As for language and organization, we'll be looking at the accuracy, the vocabulary, the sentence structure, as well as the display of paragraphs in terms of cohesion and coherence within the paragraphs. Let us look at the task fulfillment first. In argumentative essay, candidates are expected to discuss the issue and address the keywords in the question. Candidates are expected to identify the followings: who is the subject, what is the issue, and how is the subject linked to the issue. Candidates are also expected to write an introduction to introduce the topic and to direct the reader to the issue, then to make a clear stand and be consistent with the stand throughout the discussion. Candidates also need to write a thesis statement to direct the reader to the main points. They are also to provide 3 main points in 3 content paragraphs, and the main points must be supported, elaborated, and provided with relevant examples and explanations or justifications. And finally, in the content paragraph, candidates need to reinforce and sum up the arguments presented in the concluding sentence. Candidates then need to write a concluding paragraph to reaffirm the stand taken and to sum up the arguments presented. When you present your arguments, the maturity of your viewpoints is very important. That is, From whose perspective are you discussing the issue? Let's take this as our sample question for discussion. Unemployment among graduates today is caused by their own attitude. We are now going to look at the viewpoints presented by two candidates. Let's say both of them disagree with the statement. These are the viewpoints presented by candidate A. In his opinion, unemployment among graduates today is caused by the lack of experience, lack of communication skills, and employers prefer hiring foreigners. Candidate B's opinion is that unemployment is caused by saturated market situation, recession, as well as advancement in technology. If we are to compare the viewpoints presented by these two candidates, we'll see that candidate A's viewpoints are more personal. He's talking about me, myself, I. On the other hand, candidate B's viewpoints are more global. He looks at the issue from a wider perspective. That is, it involves the society and the nation as a whole. And there are other factors other than personal factors. So we can say that candidate A's viewpoints lack maturity, but candidate B's viewpoints are more matured. When you get the question, do not plunge straight into the writing task. It is worth spending a few minutes of your time analyzing the given task. We will still be using this sample question for our discussion. When you get the question, be sure to identify the keywords in the question and their meanings. So for this question here, what are the keywords? There are unemployment, graduates, today, attitude. And what do they mean? Unemployment here refers to the state of being unemployed, without a job and possibly without income, although able to work, irrespective of whether just graduated or retrenched. The second keyword, graduates, here refers to those with a degree, qualification from a university, or at least a recognized diploma. Today means the current or present times. And the last keyword here, attitude, refers to the way one thinks, behaves, or feels towards something or somebody. So the overall meaning of the statement implies a cause-effect relationship where the cause is the graduates on attitude and the effects is the unemployment. Let's look at the format of argumentative essay. We will look at the introduction first. These are the characteristics of a good introduction. Firstly, a good introduction is engaging and it is informative. It grabs the reader's interest and attention. A good introduction also provides the context and the background of the essay, in addition to indicating the writer's stand and opinion. Most important of all, a good introduction has a clear and specific thesis statement that provides the direction of the arguments. A good thesis statement is very crucial to your essay. Now, what is a good thesis statement? A good thesis statement reflects the stand taken and is written as a statement and not as a question. It is a statement that contains all the main points to be discussed in the body paragraphs, and it introduces the reader or the readers to the essay. A good thesis statement is written as the last sentence in the introductory paragraph for it to be more effective. I repeat, a good thesis statement is written as the last sentence in the introductory paragraph. There are two types of thesis statement, which are general thesis statement and specific thesis statement. A strong thesis statement is specific because it indicates the direction of the arguments. Now let's take a look at the two examples given here. In the first example here, I disagree that graduates today are unemployed because of their own attitude. This is what we mean by a weak thesis statement because here there is no direction of the arguments. The writer has simply provided his opinion on the issue only. In the second thesis statement, however, graduates today are employed because of saturated market situation, recession, and advancement in technology. This is what we call a strong and specific thesis statement because all the points to be discussed are listed down here. So therefore, the reader knows what the direction of the arguments is going to be like. So let's look at the format of argumentative essay. We'll look at the introduction first. The introduction comprises of three parts. In the first part, consists of the general statements. The general statements here are actually lead-in sentences for you to introduce the topic to the reader. There are many strategies that you can use to write the lead-in sentences. For example, you can ask questions such as rhetorical or thought-provoking questions. Other than that, you can also provide definitions of keywords. So for this, you will have to look at the statement given and identify what are the important keywords that you need to define. Alternatively, you can also provide a comparison between the past and the present situation. For those of you who are creative, you can use quotation, proverb, or idiom, but be sure that you use them in the right context. And lastly, you can also use statistics or headlines to write your lead-in sentences. The second part of the introduction is the stand. The stand is mandatory where you indicate whether you agree, you disagree, or you take a neutral stand to the statement given. And finally is the thesis statement. We have seen just now what a good thesis statement is like. So now let's use this sample question again, and we are going to put in the points here. So for the lead-in sentences, the general statements or the lead-in sentences here, I can put in sentences like this. How the rising employment rate is becoming an upsetting trend in our country today. So you see in my first sentence itself, I have already indicated the keyword unemployment. Then in the second statement here, hundreds and thousands of graduates find themselves unemployed even though they are equipped with relevant degrees. So the other keyword is here. Difference in opinion on the causes of unemployment among graduates. So here is the indication that we are going to talk about the causes of unemployment. Next, we put in the stand, right, where I disagree that unemployment among graduates today is not caused by their own attitude. So, what are the factors then if it is not their attitude? Then I put in the thesis statement here. Factors that cause unemployment among graduates today are saturated market situation, recession, as well as advancement in technology. So, just now we have seen the three parts of the introduction, and this is how you fill in the different parts, and you will get a good introductory paragraph. The second part of your essay is the body or the content paragraphs. There are 4 parts to the body paragraph. The first part is where you need to write a transition marker or a linker, and this is followed by your first main point or the topic sentence, which is taken from your thesis statement. And for the point that you have given here, you will have to provide supporting details. So here you can provide 2 or 3 supporting details, and for each of the supporting detail you are to provide elaborations, explanations and examples. And to do that, you can ask yourself these questions: why, how, what, who, when, where. It doesn't mean that you have to ask all the questions, but some of these questions are relevant to help you to develop your ideas, to help you elaborate, explain, and give examples. Once you are done with providing all the elaborations, the explanations, and the examples, then you move on to the last part of the body paragraph where you write the concluding sentence. This concluding sentence ties up the points that you have discussed here. And this is linked to the topic sentence. So now let's put in the points for each part of the body paragraph. Again, we are using unemployment among graduates as our topic of discussion here. So first of all, we put in the transition marker. You can use firstly, the first reason, one reason, or similar transition marker. Next, we have the first point, saturated market situation. So you have to put this in a complete sentence. Then we go to the major supporting details, where we provide 2 or 3 supporting details plus the examples here. Right, for the first supporting detail, right, we are looking at the saturated market situation, so we can talk about fewer vacancies but more graduates, right? So this one will cause saturation in the market. Another supporting detail would be the supply of cheap foreign labor here. And you can also provide example, right? We can see that many a time there are medical graduates waiting for housemanship or teachers waiting for posting. So this just goes to show that there are few vacancies, but there are many graduates in the market. And lastly, we put in the concluding sentence to tie up the discussion here. So therefore, fresh graduates are not hired. Right? So in order for you to develop your ideas here, you can use these questions, the guide questions that I mentioned earlier on. Next, we move to the second body paragraph. Right, so if you are giving 3 points, then you will have 3 body paragraphs. So this will be the second body paragraph. So similarly, we repeat the same process. Right, so you put in a transition marker. Since this is a second point, you can say secondly, next, another reason, moreover, or in addition. Then you put in the second point, which is recession. Again, this is taken from the thesis statement. Next, we have our supporting details. Right, recession that cause retrenchment. Right, a little bit of elaboration here. As you can see, I talk about the why, how. Okay, companies are trying to save operating costs by downsizing. So that is the reason for why retrenchment is taking place. Then another supporting detail we can talk about is the economic reasons, right? So due to economic recession, there is a lack of investment. So when there is a lack of investment, of course, there will be less opportunities for the graduates to be hired. So you develop your ideas using the question words here. And then also the third supporting detail, right, we can talk about the state of the economy, right, lockdown and the restriction due to the current pandemic. And this has actually caused recession in the economy as well. Okay, so you put in all the supporting details, and also you can provide examples. And finally, the concluding sentence again, right? So graduates cannot get the jobs and some are even laid off. So this will cover for your second body paragraph. Then we look at the third point, right? And again, we start off with a linker. We can use, since this is the last point, you can use lastly, or you can use another reason, moreover, in addition, etc., etc. Right, then you put in your third point, which is advancement in technology. So what does this mean? You have to explain by providing supporting details. You can talk about the digital technology, the use of computers and application nowadays. And because of that, there is a lack of requirement for graduates to be employed. So again, we use the WH questions to guide us in our development of the idea. When we talk about advancement in technology also, we can talk about the industrial revolution. That is, we can bring in IR 4.0. And what is IR 4.0? Right? We are talking about automation and the use of artificial intelligence. And of course, to be able to discuss this, you have to have some background knowledge. So as you can see, reading pays off here. If you read a lot, then you will be able to discuss this. And as I have mentioned earlier, the maturity of your arguments is very important. Right? So this shows maturity in your arguments, in your thoughts, and also it shows how much you have read. Right? And another point that you can use is, of course, the use of cloud technology, where information is all stored out there. Okay, so all of these reasons cut down the requirement for graduates to be employed. Okay, so once all the explanations are done, then you write the concluding sentence. Okay, so more and more jobs are being taken over by artificial intelligence. So that will conclude the third point. And finally, we go to the conclusion. And the last part of the argumentative essay. And again, there are three parts here. And the conclusion is very much similar to the introduction actually. Right, so we take a look at this. Okay, so in the introduction, first of all, you restate the opinion or reaffirms the stand taken. Right, so what is the stand taken? To disagree with the topic just now or with the statement given. Once that is done, we move to the second part, right, where you sum up the main points or the thesis statement, right? So you can have a repetition of the thesis statement, but do not write it word for word as you have written the thesis statement, right? You can rephrase it. An important thing to remember here is in the conclusion, do not introduce any new ideas, right? Do not introduce any more new points here. Okay, once you have restated your opinion and you have sum up the main points, then you go to the last part of the conclusion. That is, you write a few concluding sentences. Again, there are strategies that you can use for writing your concluding sentences. You can give suggestions, you can provide solutions or advices, you can express hope, or you can make predictions. All right, these are some of the strategies that you can use. Of course, there are more strategies depending on which you prefer and which you feel comfortable with. So then again, we are going to put our points here by using our sample topic for discussion here. Okay, so when we put in the content, this is how it looks like. Okay, so here I reaffirm my stand, okay, by saying that it cannot be denied that unemployment among graduates are caused by other factors and not by their own attitude. So here I restate my opinion or the stand that I have taken. Then I sum up the main points again, right? So I can mention this, that if it's not because of their own attitude, then it is because of the saturated market situation due to recession as well as advancement in technology. Then I provide a few concluding sentences here. Okay, so I can talk about the future of jobs. That is jobs that are not created yet, right? And also I can provide advice here by saying that in order for graduates to be employed, they have to learn new skills that are relevant to future jobs. So here you can see how you develop the ideas for your concluding paragraph. So we are done with the task fulfillment aspect of the essay. And now let's look at the language component as well as the organization component of the paragraph as part of the scoring criteria here. As for the language, we look at accuracy, vocabulary, as well as sentence structures. And I will be elaborating more on this in a little bit. The other part is the organization, where you display the paragraphs. As we know, in the essay, we have 3 main points, and we have an introductory paragraph as well as a concluding paragraph. So altogether, we are looking at 5 paragraphs in total. In addition, we are also looking at cohesions, which refers to the linking of ideas within the paragraphs, and also coherence, where ideas are linked between paragraphs, how the paragraphs are linked together. So in order to achieve cohesion and coherence, cohesive devices must be used in your essay. So now we are going to look at what some cohesive devices are used. Here is a list of cohesive devices which you can use in your writing. However, it is by no means exhaustive, so you can look up for more in the internet. So I have given you a few categories here which are more frequently used in writing. So we have here aiding, sequencing, right? We have used sequencing just now to introduce the main points. Illustrating, okay, when you want to give examples, and compare and contrast. Cohesive devices which you can use to show contradictory ideas. Okay, you can go through the list here yourself. And when you want to compare, these are some of the linkers or transition markers that you can use. Then to emphasize a point, you can use some of these that are given here. For example, above all, in particular, significantly, indeed. Right? So these are some cohesive devices that you can use. And for qualifying linkers, right, you can use but, however, although, though, even though. Okay. And in order to summarize, or when you are writing the summary, you have come to the end of it, your arguments, you can summarize by saying in short, on the whole, in other words, or generally. Okay, just pick one or two of them. And also very often we have to show cause and effect relationship in our writing. So these are some of the linkers that you can use. Yeah. So if you look at this, some of these overlap. You see here, right? So they may overlap, but you can still use them for different reasons or different purposes. As for vocabulary, you can use some low-frequency words, but be sure to use them in the right context, because some of these may not be exact synonyms. Here, I give you some examples of high-frequency words and low-frequency words. High-frequency words are those that are used commonly, whereas low-frequency words are words that are less commonly used. For example here, instead of saying that you are sleepy, you can use the word drowsy, which has the same meaning. And if you are tired, you can use the word exhausted, worn out, or weary. If you are unsure, these are some of the low-frequency words that you can use. Similarly, the word angry, you have some low-frequency words here. Instead of saying that you are angry, if you are excited or happy, these are some of the words. These are good ones. Thrill, enthusiastic, exhilarated, elated, to show that you are excited or happy. And if something is important, you can use these words: essential, vital, crucial, pertinent. Or if something is ugly, you can use the word hideous. Beautiful, it is appealing, stunning, alluring, or it is attractive, right? So here you have a choice of high frequency versus low frequency words. So if you are able to display your ability of using some low frequency words, you will be able to score a higher band for your language. Next, we look at the spelling of the words. Very often, we see our students using Bahasa Malaysia spelling instead of English because of the mother tongue influence, right? So, example here, for the word university, instead of spelling it with a Y, we have university with the I. Similarly for gadget. So this is Bahasa Malaysia spelling. As for the word furthermore, the letter R is missing here, which is a very common mistake made by candidates. So this is furthermore, R is missing. And for the next two words, the N is missing here, right? It is a silent N, so that's why students make this mistake, right? So instead of writing with the N here, it is missing for environment and government. And success, the missing C, extremely here, right, is wrongly spelled. And here, very, very often, we get this as well. Career instead of career, right? So these two are very common mistake and confusing to the students. Okay, so each of these has a different meaning. So be sure to spell the words correctly. Another aspect that you should pay attention to is also the different word forms or the word choice. For example, the word unite here, you have so many other forms of the word from the word unite. Okay, so you have uniting, united, unity, unifying, unifier. So which of these words is the correct one to be used? You have to understand that, right? And pick the right word to use. Otherwise, you will be using the wrong word in your sentences. And here, again, these are very confusing words. Advice versus advice. What is this? Right, this is the noun, whereas this is the verb. Similarly for practice and practice. Okay, so you have the noun and you have the verb. So be sure you are able to differentiate between these words here. Earlier on, I mentioned about accuracy in terms of language use. So now let's take a look at some common errors that are made by students. In the first sentence here, it is wrong to say I am agree. The correct version should be I agree or I agree with you. Similarly, the second sentence is a distortion. You just have to say I would like to tell you. The use of beside here is inaccurate. The candidate has intended to use beside as a linker. However, beside is not a linking word. Beside is actually a preposition. For example, I am sitting beside you. If it is to be used as a linking word, it should be spelled besides. B-E-S-I-D-E-S, besides. For the next two words here, people and children are already in the plural form. So we don't need the S for people and for children. Another common mistake made by students is in the use of the modal verbs and the to infinitive. The grammar rule states that when you use modal verbs or the to infinitive, what comes after that is the root verb or the base word. So meaning to say there should be no ed, no past tense, no s, or no ing for the word or for the verb to be used. Another common error is this, the spelling of the word conclusion. Instead of the S-I-O-N, the students mostly spell with T-I-O-N. So students, please be careful with this, yeah? And this is also another common error made by the students. Instead of saying other people, they will say others people, which is wrong. It's either other people or others. This is a mistake in the structure. So it should be inversed. Instead of saying also can, it should be can also. We can also do it. For example, the spelling of the word nowadays is also a common mistake made by students. For example, instead of spelling nowadays, it is spelled nowadays without the A. Or nowadays spelled as three words instead of one word. Lastly, is not in the other hand, it should be on the other hand. Right? So please be alert to the spelling, be alert to your word choice so that you reduce the mistakes made in your language. Having looked at the task fulfillment, the format, the language aspect, as well as the organization of an argumentative essay, let me now show you a sample introductory paragraph. In this introduction, I have put together the ideas as well as used linking words or cohesive devices to make this introduction into a cohesive piece of writing. Right, so let's take a look at the sentences here. As you read, you will find that I have taken some keywords from the statement of issue. Right, so unemployment is one of the keywords given in the statement. Another keyword here will be graduates. Graduates find themselves unemployed. Right, and you continue reading, you will come to the next keyword, that is their own attitude. Okay, the graduates' own attitude. And when I put all these sentences together, this is what we call the lead-in sentences. Remember when I was telling you about the introduction, there are three components to the paragraph. And the first part is where you write the lead-in sentences. Okay, so I have a few lead-in sentences here, and the words that are underlined here, as you can see, are the linkers. And these linkers are used to link the ideas so that the sentences flow. After the lead-in sentences, I put in the second component, that is the stand, right? Since I disagree with the statement, I said I beg to differ. That is one way of saying that I disagree with the statement. And since I disagree, I have to provide a thesis statement to support my opinion. So I start off by saying I believe that other factors such as the saturated market situation, recession, and advancement in technology have greatly impacted the graduates' opportunities to be employed. So here I have given a specific and clear thesis statement. So the reader, when he or she reads this statement, will be able to follow the flow of my discussion later on. So this is what we call a complete introductory paragraph with all the three components there. Next is a content paragraph. And if you remember, there are four aspects of the content paragraph. We have the linking word. We have the main point here. This is the main point 1 taken from the thesis statement. And after the main point, we have the supporting details here. Okay, so I have the supporting detail 1 where I provide explanation, elaboration, and example. I also give a second supporting detail here. And this second supporting detail is also supported with explanation, elaboration, and example is also given. And after that, I have the last component, which is the concluding sentence. And this concluding sentence is linked to the main point, the first main point here. And again, in this content paragraph, I have used linking words as well. Different types of linking words to link the ideas together into a coherent content paragraph. This is the conclusion, and in the conclusion, there are three parts, which are you reaffirm your stand, you restate the thesis statement, and then you provide some concluding sentences. Right, so here I have started off my concluding paragraph with a linker, an appropriate linker in conclusion. Right, and this is followed by my stand. I reaffirm my stand. It cannot be denied that unemployment among graduates is caused by other factors. And this is followed by the thesis statement. Right, the 3 points here. Okay, and after that, I provide some concluding sentences, and these concluding sentences can be in the form of advice. Here, I advise them they need to learn new skills to stay relevant to future job markets. Okay, and also suggestions, right, that they can attend online courses to improve interpersonal skills to make sure that they increase their chances of being employed. So these are the concluding sentences to sum up everything that has been discussed so far. Lastly, this is a reminder of what the characteristics of a good essay are. A good essay addresses the task or the topic at hand. It answers the question given. In order to help you develop the ideas, you can ask yourself these questions: how, why, what, who, where, when. A good essay also requires the use of appropriate language, and a variety of sentence structures are used. It also requires precise vocabulary in terms of word choice. in terms of spelling, and also it has to be concise and compact, where you are required to write at least 250 words. So with that, I end my presentation, and here is wishing you good luck for your Muet. Do the best and beat the rest. Thank you very much.